talking to someone and you may have a different opinion in your family, and you're coming from a good place, make peace with that. Because sometimes people are used to you being in the box, doing what you've always done, serving how you've always served, responding how you've always responded. But then when you grow and you come to a different place, you respond. You start behaving a little different. And no, they're not going to like it, right? But they're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. It will pass. You just have to live your truth. And it's going to be okay. It may be a little resistance. It may be a little bit of conflict. But you just stand. After having done all the stand therefore, but be honest and share your truth about things. Don't allow the guilt, don't allow the tactics that family members, especially because they really know you best. I mean, family members know you best. So don't allow, the way that they respond. Don't be overly concerned about how they respond, because if you know that you're operating in the right spirit, especially if you have heard from God about a situation, you feel that that's your truth, then you can stand and honor your truth. Your feelings, your perspective should be honored as well. And sometimes just sweeping things under the rug or giving in enables more of the bad treatment or negative responses to continue if you're not really presenting and showing up as yourself in the conversations and interactions with family members. I can say in a situation in my family, there's a person has been used to always been acquiesced to, given into, because they kind of have, I would say, kind of a big personality. They can get mad, and people don't want to deal with that, so they give in. But I'm like, now look, now they kind of have a perspective that they're always right or usually right, and then it can become difficult when other people have a different perspective. So now you have to do the work of starting again to kind of have things a little bit more balanced when they're used to always getting their way.
Thank you.
Is she helping?
Yeah.
And probably got some other people too. Next question.
I just want to know, can you repeat some of the scriptures you mentioned?
What I'll do is, for the sake of time, it's okay. I'll send it. I have a lot of scriptures. Are you okay? If I can send that later, there's a lot of scriptures the Lord gave me that can help you. But the good thing is that the Bible is really our prototype. I mean, of boundary setting. I mean, it starts with the 10 Commandments. The Lord is like letting us know how we should respond and behave and react and be, just so that He can get the greatest glory out of our lives, and so we can be victorious, so we can have peace with one another and healthy interactions in the way that He intends.
Any other questions? I know you guys got some questions. Come on.
It's not more so of a question. When you, in your presentation, you talk about being a doormat. And I used to be that way until one of the things that I wrote down was, as an X, because I'm a Generation X. I'm a Generation Xer. And we were taught to be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
So with that being said, as I was growing up, I would always let people just do whatever or say whatever, because I was always seen and not heard. And if I spoke out of turn, I was being nasty or rude or disrespectful to my elders or whomever. And that, like you said, that's a generational curse. Because of the simple fact that we were raised to sing and not heard and not be able to express yourself.
Yeah.
And as I started having children, I have a daughter, and I always be like, I want her voice to be heard.
Yeah.
So I would say, you have the table. And I used to tell her all the time, I couldn't say anything. I could never say how I felt growing up. So if this is your platform, we can have a discussion about me getting mad or setting those boundaries with her early, so she can come to me and talk to me as she should.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard, especially when you come from kind of a programming or a socialization that you're to be seen and not heard. But what I've learned is that's created more damage over time through the generational lines, where you start seeing patterns and such. And then it comes to a point where enough is enough. Do we want this dysfunction, this toxicity to continue in our family line for the generations after? Or do we need to start having the truthful conversations with each other to overcome whatever the issue is, not sweep it under the rug, so we can get to the other side, healthy, healed, and whole, and not broken. So it comes with the practice. It comes with the practice. And it may just come to a point where you're like, I've had it. I was tired of the suffering, tired of the mistreatment, allowing people to kind of just run all over you. Sometimes it will come within yourself to say, this is too much, where you're kind of almost forced now to release your voice, to express your voice about situations that are going on. But it's great that you're kind of helping to try to work on that. And it's a work in progress, but it's worth the effort to get to the other side, which is to be free. Amen. We don't want to be in bondage by other people in a way that is negative for us.
I have a question. So just also speaking to that generational piece, when you do pick up on patterns and then you're making changes and you're growing, like how do you, I guess, address certain things that you're no longer wanting to be a part of in your family line? Like what does that look like? Because everybody's not always going to be in the same place that you are. They may still be living in that dysfunction while you're trying to make those changes, and maybe they don't understand why you're doing things differently.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it starts from just speaking your truth, letting them know that, you know, your growth, the personal work and development that you're doing on yourself, and how that or this scenario or this situation for me is a kind of a violation of my own personal boundary, that this is toxic or unhealthy for me, you know, in your own way of communicating that you still love them, but this is something that I can't be a part of, or even this is a topic that maybe we can't discuss right now because of just maybe the tension around it, or they're not ready yet. They don't see where you are with it yet. And that's okay. You can respectfully agree to disagree. And then everything doesn't have to come to a crisis. You should be able to have a perspective. I should be able to have a perspective. We can still love each other, and we should be able to go on. Yeah.
I think, April, it's also really important. Kiddos and I were talking about it, how this when you set a boundary, it's scary at first because of how people might react, but it sets such an example. Her example was a work example, but in your own family, it sets such an example for others to be like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
I need a boundary somewhere.
Right.
It frees other people up to take that step and do it for them too. And somebody's got to be the trailblazer.
It's true. And sometimes people are not aware of the dysfunction. It only becomes a normalcy when you're in a dynamic for some time, a long time. You don't even realize how dysfunctional or unhealthy it is until it takes somebody to kind of say, you know what, this is not okay. It's not okay. And it takes courage, yes. And you have to be willing to understand that some people are not going to like it. And it's okay. You can't focus on their reaction or what they may say. You have to be willing to stand in your truth. Again, as you know your own heart. You search your own heart. The Bible says, search me, O Lord, try me, and know my. If you're coming from a right place and you have good motive and intention, then it's okay you just have to be strong and resilient. You pray, you ask God to help you just kind of during the winds of a little bit of adversity. But the work, it's worth it if it comes to the freedom and the victory that could be had by making a change. Because if we don't make the change, we'll do what we've always gotten. And the cycles and the patterns will continue to change. And then also, when you start getting healthier, you realize what you deserve, your worth. People who want control at times, they try to diminish you, they devalue you, you know, and that's not the truth according to the word and says who we are. So when you get a revelation more of who you are, understanding your worth, whether it's professionally or personally, you begin to fight for yourself. You begin to stand for yourself in the truth of who you really are. And in that place of you doing that, it frees other people up to do the same.
Thank you.
Okay, so how do you recognize when you should set boundaries? For some of us who are not very good at this, before you reach like the breaking point.
Well,
When
sometimes,
do you
unfortunately, you have to get to a breaking point.
Yeah.
You have to sometimes just get tired of being kicked around, hurt all the time, your peace broken, exhausted and worn down, wherever that rock bottom place is for you, and you kind of have to have that courageous conversation with yourself and say, there's a better way. There's a better way of existing and being in the Word. God wants more for us. This is not abundance, you know, when you think about it. So sometimes it is just coming to a place of just sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know, and not having the balance in your life that you need to perform and show up at your best. And then it's just taking small steps. You know, it's not coming around like, I'm tired, you're not, you know, in every environment, it doesn't have to be that extreme. It can just be a little bit. It can just be incremental change and different situations and relationships, and you feel empowered. And then know that your boundaries will be tested. There was a situation, the scripture, and I'll share this with you later, but in Nehemiah, where he was building, you know, the project, and the people said, well, why don't you come from there and come hang out with us? And they asked him 4 times. And he was like, no, I'm not going to leave this work to go hang out with you. And he said it 4 times. He said the same thing 4 times. They kept asking him, and he said it 4 times. So sometimes it's not just a one and done situation. You're going to have to stand in your truth and enforce your boundaries and stand on your boundaries so people can know that, oh, okay, maybe she really means it. You know, people who are used to the cycle of revolving sometimes don't think, oh, okay, time will pass and it'll be okay and we'll go back to what we've always done and how it's always been. But you have to be the one when you come to a place, and it comes by prayer and by revelation. Also, God showing you who you really are, that you kind of realize that, wow, I'm worthy of better. I'm worthy of more here. And that's when you're able to make small changes, and it comes with practice. So if something comes on the inside, and you're like, I really don't want that, that's where you can say, well, offer something different. And you don't have to be mean about it. You can say,
Usually I do it once I reach a breaking point. I was hoping like what to do before you reach. So do it early.
Yeah, I think it comes from honoring your inner voice, honoring the Spirit of God. You know when you really want to do something and when you don't. It can be something simple like, hey, you want to go do this, maybe you planned on Netflix and chilling or something, and you didn't want to go to wherever. You just say no. It doesn't have to be as high level. It can be low level things that you can build up to the bigger things. But I think it's just honoring your voice, your inner voice within, and not overriding that. And speaking what's true for you in that moment before getting to the rock bottom. Because usually that has happened, but maybe you just ignored, right, over a period of time, you know, the Spirit of God within you, your own voice, and then finally you're now just laid out, you know, just worn and tired. Mm-hmm.
My question.
Give me my time, okay, thank you. These are really great questions, by the way, everybody.
So there's like a healthy boundary, but then there is unhealthy boundary that you could set. So where do you draw the line when it becomes too excessive?
Give me an example of what you mean when you say it becomes too excessive.
Like you build a fence where you're keeping everybody out because you're building boundary where you shouldn't.
Right. So So when you realize that you're isolating, you know, we're created to have fellowship and connections with other people. That was mentioned today. If you find that you just by yourself all the time and just, you know, not making yourself available to, you know, fellowship and learn and glean from other people, God created us to have that horizontal, you know, fellowship with each other as well as having the vertical relationship with Him. So if your boundaries are such that you're not able to bring people in because He brings people divine help, right, to support you in your journey. If it's to the point where the people who have ministry, those that can help you get to your expected end, are not allowed to take that ministry place or that friendship or provide what you need in terms of connection, then that's something to kind of, you know, take a look at and be aware of. And a lot of it is hurt. A lot of it comes from hurt. You've been hurt by people over time, and so as a way to protect yourself, you might put a boundary up. But that can keep the good things out too, right, that you really do need. So it comes from just your personal prayer time, asking God to show you and help you. And then as you cultivate a relationship with Him, being able to listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit to help you to discern the motives of people, then it helps you to maneuver better in the personal aspect as well as the work environment or wherever context you find yourself. And you know who to give access to, and then you know who not to.
I ask myself questions in those situations, Kiddis, and it goes to Mashari's point of very simple question: does this come from a value of mine, or is this coming from a place of fear of pain? When you set a boundary, that's like the simple kind of discernment method of which is it, what camp does it fall in?
Yeah. And it comes from taking the work to really know who you are. You know, I mean, sometimes we just have to stop and get in there with God to let him show us who we are, what our purpose is. Sometimes we can be so busy, and if you're overwhelmed with schedule, doing good things, but if you don't know your personal value, if you don't know what your values are, then you can't enforce that with anybody or teach others what they are. So if you don't know that, that's kind of a place to start. If you just kind of, I'm just going to go in and trying to figure stuff out, making and surviving, but then if you're like, well, who am I really? That's where we have to do that work, you know, and that means whatever it is to get in that place with God, to just get him to show you and speak to you in his word, and just show you who you are and understanding your worth, your value. So that way when you come out into the world, you're operating from that place of understanding who you are. You know, learning to love yourself, they put in the song, is the greatest love of all. It truly is. And your interaction with others and how you show up in these environments and with other people completely changes when you have that core understanding within yourself. Or else, if you don't know, people will give you identities, right? People will tell you, okay, you don't know, we're going to go with this, we're going to do this and that. And you're like, okay, that makes you vulnerable for, you know, people who may not have your best interest at heart to take advantage of you. Yeah, so that's core. If you haven't done that work and you still have questions about that, that's the place definitely to start. Yeah.
Do you think there are seasons for relationships?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I heard it said before that some people come for a season, a reason, a lifetime. You know, and even if it's negative experiences, it's what you learn from it. What's the lesson learned? You know, yes, I do think that there are people who are brought into your life for a certain time in a season. It's not always a lifetime relationship. So yes, I do. And I think that's something too that we have to be okay with, is if the season is over, it's okay to just let go. And that can be hard, especially when it comes to personal relationships. If it wasn't the right relationship for you, we have to be okay with what God's decision was. If he ended something, or if he didn't allow a relationship to continue for, you know, there was a reason behind it. And sometimes we have to thank God for not just what he, he protects us, yes, but what he protects us from. Sometimes we don't know, like, in the future, like he does. So sometimes he prevents us from certain things that we have to learn to accept. Sometimes we're trying to make something or keep and preserve something that really is not one ordained for him, from him, which is why there's this cycle of dysfunction and stress, and so that can happen. So I would say to that, we have to be discerning as well about the times and the seasons and the relationships. And if they come to an end and God allowed it, then it's okay to not go beyond its expiration, so to speak. Because that's when we can get into trouble with the boundaries, and we can be susceptible to some abuse.
You have a question?
Oh no, I want to say regarding her you talked about having negative boundaries. I always say this sometimes too for myself, and I have to keep saying it to myself. I can't expect for you to be me. So sometimes I can't, because I might do something that's my value, it might not be your value. I can't accept you from me, or literally, my value could be totally different from yours. It doesn't say it's right or wrong, but I can't expect you from me. I can't take your values just for me. You might think I'm wrong. Somebody else might think I'm right.
Yeah.
So if you set those negative boundaries, you may have to talk to each other. And like you said, talk and have the ear discernment.
Absolutely. And the people are not going to like it. You have to just be prepared for the pushback. I was at a presentation recently at my job, and there was a group of us who were presenting, and the person had a clicker. We all didn't have our own the clicker at the time. So I'm just noticing the slides are advancing, and I'm not ready for them to advance. And so I was like, go back, please. It was about 3 times. And so afterwards, I was thinking, was she strategy or something. And so I asked her, she's like, well, I was like, that's something you need to let me know about. You know, when you're already before a group, there's a lot of moving parts. And, you know, there were some things of importance that I wanted to say that I didn't get to say because she was advancing slides and I had no knowledge that she was going to do that. So I had to come around and say that, you know, that was not professional, right? But I had to come around and say something. One, I had to check my understanding to see if what I felt and perceived in the moment was exactly what was going on, and it was. And so I just said, this is a professional courtesy, you know, don't do that. You know, if that's what you're going to do, let me know, okay, then I can be prepared. You know, I thought it was a mistake at first, but it wasn't. But now I helped her know how I expect to be treated in that situation. And now she has the opportunity to correct it and not do that again, hopefully, right? After we've had that conversation, she did apologize. She did apologize. I just had never seen that before the whole time of anybody doing any presentation, anybody just moving things along, and they don't know about it. But in this instance, she got that notion. She got that idea. And I just had to let her know, let's not have that happen again. You know, so there's a way you can do it with a smile. You know, doesn't mean that you mean or challenging or difficult. You just have to speak your truth in that moment and help other people understand what's acceptable, how to treat you. You should be treated with value and respect, right?
And just to be clear, so when you had the inclination that she was moving forward, you addressed it with her, so you asked her, like, hey.
I did.
Okay.
So I just kind of followed up with her, and it was just like, hey, you know, it was great collaborating with you. You know, I just kind of had a little entry point as far as, you know, hey, it was great for the collaboration. I really enjoyed working with you all to develop the presentation. It was some really great conversations, and I think it was went over very receptive to the audience. So I kind of came with some positives and kind of segue. And I noticed during the presentation that slides were advancing. I wasn't sure, was that a mistake or, you know, so I kind of gently kind of went in there to kind of get to what I was trying to find out. Okay. So the Lord will give you moments, and it's your approach. Yeah. You know, so I just kind of came with some positive. It was great collaboration. Yay. And during the presentation, I noticed, and, you know, I was just wanting to clarify, you know, she was like, we had more people to talk, and I just want to make sure everybody's voices were heard. You know, so she just kind of skipped past my presentation. So then I had to, once that was confirmed, I was able to just kind of talk with her and share. And then if that's hard for you with kind of knowing what to say, the Lord will help you and show you. You know, if we take a moment to invite him in and help us, then we're not kind of knee-jerk in terms of how we approach and respond to people, so we can have a more productive outcome. You know, if I approached her in a moment in terms of how I felt, that would not have been wisdom. That would not have been wise to come to her just after to say, you know, my words might have been different, right? So I waited and then just say, how can I approach this? And that's what came to me was, why don't you just start with thanks for the collaboration and what you thought went well, and then just came with I noticed and I was curious, you know, and then gave her the opportunity sort of to kind of fill in what actually was going on, and she confirmed that she was just trying to move things along without me knowing, and that's where I was able to kind of speak my truth in it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes you might have to, you know, pray about it, but then also having a community of support like this, sometimes you may have to call somebody who you know might be good about coming up with responses to people because, wow, you're really good at that, or thinking on the spot, you know, this happened, how do you think I should frame this? Mm-hmm. You know, how do you think I can broach this topic with this person? And then people you trust, you know, can give you some guidance on maybe some sentence starters on how to talk about something. And then also if it keeps bothering you. So I waited, not that day, but I noticed I continued to think about it like 2 days after. Mm-hmm. So I addressed it in the same week. Okay. So the presentation happened like on a Tuesday. And then I noticed I kind of still reflected back on that. And then I said, I think I need to address it if it's still something that's still bothering me, even to a couple days later.
Well, let's give her a hand.
And just to chime in, if you want to talk to Mashari, she'll be here throughout the day.
Absolutely.
And then Pat is going to be doing some door prizes, and some of the door prizes are by our very own, written by Sarah. Sarah, you want to say a few words about yourself before they see what they get?
Cindy, I said I was trying to breathe. Sure, yeah. So I authored a book. I can't believe it's been 3 years ago. And it's called All About Change, How to Successfully Make Personal Life Change. It came about, I had these 4 new coaching clients in mind that were all kind of asking the same question: how do I make a life change and make it well? And it wasn't the big things, it was kind of little things. I wrote a workbook first, and then somebody was like, you should probably make some money to make this work. I was like, great idea, but I have a 3-month-old, and if you know me at all, I was like, that's not really a problem, let's do this. So, I wrote this wonderful book that's kind of spread, and it's been well received, so if whoever gets one today, I'm happy to sign it for you, and answer any questions you might have about change. It's kind of my jam.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, here we go. See everybody's names in the bag.
Yes.
So, how many names?
There's going to be 4 prizes.
You need some help?
No, I got
Because my name is like,
Let's see, we have.
Hey, yay.
Congratulations. Prize number 2 goes to. Speaking in existence.
That ain't mine, whoever put it.
This is Sarah Carter.
Oh, no.
Bit of a vanity treat right there.
Okay, we have Desiree Wood. Here you go, congrats.
Thank you.
2 more to go. I said, ooh.